And we're live. Hi, everybody, and hello, Heather. Thank you so much for joining me today for an Indie Author Live Chat.
Thank you for having me.
It is so good to get to talk to you because, as much as we have going on, it's like we never get to chat.
Yeah, right.
Oh, goodness. And I see Melissa says hi.
Hi, Melissa.
And hello to everybody else who's watching on Twitter or Facebook or YouTube. Please feel free to leave us any questions as we go through, and we will answer them in the chat. We've got a couple pre submitted, but before we jump into that, Heather Carter is the author of Songs and Saltwater, a gender swapped Little Mermaid retelling, along with several other pieces, including one coming out through Starry Ink Press next year. And why don't you tell the viewers who've never heard of you who you are, what you write, a little bit about the books that are already out?
Well, my name is Heather Carter. I am a mama of two, a married mama of two, and I mainly write a romantic fantasy. I kind of dip my toe in, some paranormal type uh, romance and some horror, sci-fi type stuff too. But romantic fantasy is kind of my bread and butter. So that is what I do. Oh, and poetry and songs. So
Yes. You got a great singing voice. If you haven't followed Heather's Instagram, sometimes Heather will put up songs on Instagram, I guess that are technically for TikTok, but I see them on Instagram and they're great. So,
thanks.
how did you end up in writing? Because you've got so many different interests, and I know, you're a mom too. How do you get into writing from where you were before?
I have been writing since I was 9 years old, maybe 8 or 9. I was always a very avid reader as a kid, and then my imagination just kind of outgrew the books that I was reading, and I would get frustrated with endings or whatever. And I had a lot of daydreams, so I would just start writing them down, and
So, I know with the fairy tale retellings, in a way, it's like elevated fan fiction. And a lot of
it is.
writers I've spoken to lately have talked about how they started writing fan fiction because, like you said, they didn't like the ending, they didn't like something about it. Were your original writings more like that fan fiction, or has it always been, you know what, I'm just going to throw a whole new creative approach on it?
It's been a little bit mixture of both. I do remember writing fan fiction whenever I was like 12 and 13 years old, but that was primarily about boy bands, so like 90s boy bands. So it's just taking, a different spin on the daydream aspect.
Yeah.
And, make it a nice romantic princess story out of it.
Do you have a favorite 90s boy band?
Oh gosh, that's like asking me to choose between my children. Um, I always leaned a little bit more towards Backstreet Boys, I think. So
Oh. Yeah, and so we're totally dating ourselves here by talking about 90s Backstreet
yeah,
Boy bands. But that's
yeah.
okay. That's okay. So, with your love of music and poetry, do you have any songs or poems that you integrate into your writing?
Yes, there are a couple of songs in of Songs and Saltwater that they wrote because it's a very musical book. Um, because the main character Fivriel is a siren. He's a male siren, um, and he's got this lovely hypnotic singing voice, which he despises because of the ramifications of it and the traditions of how it affects humans. But Marin, his love interest, also sings, and she plays instruments. She plays the violin and the piano. And so I was able to incorporate songs into the book, and she'll be singing and he'll be playing on the piano. And so,
Wow.
of Songs and Saltwater has book or has songs, and then The Third Veil is also kind of a musical novel. So.
Yeah. So if you do the audiobook versions, because I don't know if you have audiobooks in the works yet. I know that there will be one forthcoming for the one with Starry Ink Press, but like the audiobook for your other books, is that something that you would want to do yourself, or at least like tell the producer, hey, here's how these songs are supposed to sound?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Like I've done some of them, I've recorded some of them and put them up on like TikTok or YouTube or whatever. Um, but that's something I definitely would probably at least give direction on because they have actual tunes and parts to them and things like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's
So,
a whole different aspect. I love stories with songs and poems because I'm a huge Lord of the Rings fan, and so grew
yeah.
up with that being a big part. And I think of Songs and Saltwater, that's one of the things that I really loved about the story that was so unique is seeing music tied into a bigger story, sort of like Phantom of the Opera. But
Yay!
you mentioned The Third Veil, which is coming out in October.
Mhm.
Is that a part of the same world as of Songs and Saltwater? Is that something like completely new?
The Third Veil is completely separate. It was written before of Songs and Saltwater. I'm just now getting
Oh.
around to publishing it, though. It's it's a little bit of a longer book than of Songs and Saltwater, but it's kind of I don't know. It's kind of an homage to um, freedom and new beginnings, I guess you could say, because I wrote at a time of my life where I was transitioning from one thing to another, making some major changes in my life. So, of Songs and Saltwater, or Songs and Saltwater, well, The Third Veil is a very special book to me, and I wanted to make sure it was done right. So,
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a really common reason that a lot of us indie publish some of our books, even if we go traditional with other books, is not wanting to lose that special connection
mm-hmm.
to a story. And are you still looking for advanced readers for the Third Veil? I know for a while you had like
I
a
am.
oh
I mean, I've got some. So, and there's a lot of people that are still reading it now, but I still have spots available for advanced readers. So,
So I'm going to drop this in the chat. If you're watching on Twitter, you'll have to go to YouTube or Facebook to get this link. But I just dropped Heather's main list of links in her link tree in the comments on Facebook and YouTube. And on there is the ARC Reader sign up for the Third Veil. If you're watching and you're a reader and you don't know what that means, ARC means Advanced Reader Copy. It's somebody who gets a copy of the book before it releases to the public and reads it, and then we would appreciate an honest review. A lot of authors are like, reviews are our bread and butter and how we know what you like and don't like. So, yeah. um,
yes,
but
we love
definitely go
reviews.
sign up. Heather's voice is very good. If you haven't read any of Heather's works, they're very magical. So, reading one for free before anybody else just sounds amazing. Ah, so speaking of, indie and traditional, what made you decide to pursue traditional publication on top of the success? Because for a very first debut novel of Songs and Saltwater did extremely well. What made you decide to still sort of pursue that traditional side?
Well, I wanted to pursue an avenue that would potentially open some doors that are a little bit harder to open with indie publishing alone. I wanted to make sure I could get like the Mountain King. I wanted to get it in front of a broader audience. Sometimes with indie books, well, I love being an indie author. Also, it can be a little bit more niche. But I know, like we've talked before about, like there are certain things that you can do with traditional that are harder to do with indie.
Yeah.
So that was one of the reasons.
Yeah, and you queried for a while, me stepping back. I came across The Mountain King, which is the one you're publishing with Starry Ink, through PitMad. And I remember seeing the pitch on Twitter's hashtag PitMad and being like, this is amazing. I have to read more of this book. This is fantastic. But besides PitMad, what was the query process like for you? Like, did you go in expecting to get signed faster than you did? Or, I know a lot of authors we've had on this year are in that journey right now, and they're looking for agents and they're looking for publishers.
Actually, The Mountain King is the second book that I had queried. I actually had started querying The Third Veil at one point. But then after querying it for a while, I ended up pulling it back. It underwent like a transformation. I decided to go indie with that one. But with The Mountain King, I was querying for a little while. I still got my color-coded Excel spreadsheet. um, and querying is just a lot of research. You feel kind of like a secretary or something because it's just data after data, and keeping track of everything and looking for just the right, agents that you think might love to read your story.
Yeah.
But in the end, I'm obviously very happy with where I ended up. I couldn't be happier that it found a home.
Well, and I can say it is such an honor to have had you trust it to Starry Ink Press, especially with us being a new press, too. Uh, it's just so much of an honor. There are stories that really stand out, and uh, when you read them as a reader, there are stories that just stick with you, and this story's never leaving. I've got this story for life. And so this debut batch of authors in general has been so humbling to have such amazing hidden talent. So really excited for the release. Stay tuned for more on The Mountain King, if that's what you're on here for. We will be having a cover reveal in the next couple months, and pre-orders are going up very soon. So very, very excited for that. So despite getting ready for the Third Veil's release in October, and of course working on The Mountain King and The Mountain King Volume 2,
Yes.
what goes on in your writing world for the rest of 2022?
For the rest of 2022, I am, let's see, I've got King of Stars. I'm actually thinking of writing a sequel to The Third Veil, believe it or not.
Nice.
I mean, I've got some short stories that I had started that I think I'll, work on a little bit more, because sometimes I need a little bit of a breather between projects, shorter project to get my brain going a little bit. But there's been interest in a sequel for The Third Veil, so I think I'm going to be working on plotting that out and getting a head start on that. So
That's a lot going on.
I know, I never stop. It's probably a problem, but I never stop.
Yeah, there's one other project that I know you're in, because we're in it together, and honestly, I'm sort of like, I've forgotten about it until I literally looked over your link tree just now. We have books. You and I both have short stories or novellas or full novels in the free box set right now. That's the Creatures of Myth and Creatures of Magic
And Myth. Yes.
anthology. What was your experience like being part of a box set? Have you been a part of a box set before?
I was part of one other anthology before. It came out in November, which is now I've published it as a standalone novella, The Curse of the Bloodwood, and that was a fun experience. And now this is like a bigger, a little bit of a bigger project, and it's really an honor to be included in a compilation with amazing authors and best-selling authors and stuff, and I still feel like you know I'm this little grasshopper author.
That never gets better, or it never changes, or if it has, I haven't experienced it yet. When I was writing, it was like, I
Yeah,
want to be an author, and then you put the book out, and it's like, I want to be a bestseller, and then you become a bestseller, and you're like, I still feel like the same person.
yeah.
Nothing's changed yet.
I'm not driving a Rolls Royce yet. I mean, I can tell you that much.
We write for the passion. Money is
We
nice,
do.
but write for the
Yeah.
passion. Melissa says, I haven't even finished the third veil and I need a sequel already.
Yeah, she's an art reader.
So yeah, we definitely need to be on the art team to get a hold of that then. Your cover design for of Songs and Saltwater absolutely blew a lot of people, including myself, away. Did you
Oh yeah.
design it yourself?
No, I gave some kind of a feel and some pointers about how the characters look um, with my cover designer, and gave her like a synopsis of the story and everything. But then she came up with the basic design for it, and it underwent some tweaking. Like initially it was just one character on the cover, and then I said, well, why don't we add Fivriel on there? And Frida art book design, she does like just the most fantabulous job. I mean, the concepts that she comes up with are just phenomenal. you know
My
I've
green
always been
screen is
happy.
freaking out there. Sorry.
Goodbye, Catherine.
Goodbye. Yeah, your designer is amazing. If you haven't seen the cover, you could go look at that. Also on Heather's newsletter sign up page, because Heather has so much going on that if you
Yeah.
really want to keep up with the books and the invitation to be ARC readers and all of that, you can sign up for Heather's newsletter here. But do you have a copy of the book with you? Because mine is packed because we're getting ready to move.
This is my proof copy of the third veil. Oh gosh, it's gonna.
Oh, pretty.
There we go. It's a proof copy. I've got like regular copies, but they're still packed. So because we just moved, and then that was of Songs and Saltwater, not the third veil. See, I get my books mixed up, and this is the third
It's
veil.
like kids. How when you're growing up, parents are like getting names wrong on their kids. That's how it is with books too.
Yeah, that's the third veil.
Oh my gosh.
You'll have to see it better online. But yeah, I know it's like children book. Get over here. Yeah.
So there's going to be a paperback version of Third Veil. Are you going to do print copies of, oh goodness, your Creatures of Magic and Myth book once it comes out of the box set?
I don't know. I'll have to figure that out because it's not terribly long. The Twilight Bride. Um, I'm considering it though. It depends on how much of a demand there is for it.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to have a cover made and get to work, Frida. Yeah.
The small stories, I say small, like novellas are hard because they really do make for the thin printed versions, but then it's also like I don't want to create a whole anthology of novellas quite yet necessarily. So curious to see what happens with yours. But yeah, so much is going on. We have a couple pre-submitted questions that I'll go through. And if you're watching live, because I see we have several people on, feel free to leave a question as well for any of Heather's books or writing or publishing. One of the pre-submitted questions, shoot, kitty, I got a cat up here. One of the pre-submitted questions that we got for you is, how do you find time to write as a mom?
Well, My children are 10 and 15. So they are kind of at the age where they're mostly independent, except I still get interrupted a lot, you know. Um, my 10-year-old wanting to talk and everything. So I grab moments to write in between um, doing this and that, doing the dishes between, cooking and, helping the kids with this and that. I just grab the moments where I can. And then in the evening, when my husband's home, I can usually block out a better slot of time and I'll be doing sprints with other writers or something.
Wow.
So,
That's great that you've got his support too behind all the
yeah.
writing.
Yeah,
Uh,
he's great.
Another one is, do you work a day job?
Kind of. I am a part time virtual assistant. I work from home and I work actually with my dad, my stepmom, because they do freelance advertising and website maintenance and things like that, website design. And so I am almost their assistant and I do social media copywriting and things like that. So,
That's really cool. So I guess that has really helped with your social media stuff for your own things too.
yeah, because I do it for businesses. So,
Yeah. I think one of the things, and maybe that's what was behind this question. I don't know. I'm guessing. So if you're on and you're the person that asked the question, you could clarify. But there's this mentality that once you get signed by a publisher, you don't ever have to work again. And I think it wasn't until I was an adult and one of my favorite traditional authors, Amelia Atwater Rhodes, who wrote um, Demon in My View and Hawk Song and Snake Charm, when I found out that they still have a full time day job as a teacher on top of being traditionally published in like major booksellers everywhere and libraries everywhere, they still have to work a day job. It was my first inclination that, oh, writers who are traditionally published don't always make as much money either. uh,
I keep telling my sister, eventually I will have the castle on the moors with the 20 spoiled cats and, the staff with the questionable past. But I'm not there yet. So,
yeah, it's
so I
all, well,
work
it'll get there one day.
someday.
Melissa says, who is your favorite character that you've written so far?
I would say Fivriel from Of Songs and Saltwater, the male siren, the merman. Um,
Yeah.
because I mean he's he's a he's a book boyfriend. I mean, who sings? And he's a very sweet character and a very loving person. So
So, on that note, has it been harder to write some of the darker characters? Because you have some characters that are very just good people, genuinely good people throughout. And then some characters that in some other works, they get a little dark.
yeah, um, it's harder for me to write um, villains, especially and if it's like a longer work or whatever. I tend to want to give them a dynamic or like a more gray, more morality. Yes, morality. Um, especially if it's has anything to do with romance. I kind of want to. I always just naturally gravitate towards morally gray. But yeah, I have a tendency to get pretty dark with my antagonists, with my villains and stuff, and I have
I
to
don't
put
blame
myself in
you.
that mindset. you know, it's like, what would a really horrible person do?
Ah, and I know since Melissa's on, Melissa's just over there like hee
She knows.
Ah, but yes, yes, lots of morally gray and sort of dark villains, but really, really good stories where the characters grow. So if you're looking for fantasy romance slash fairy tale retelling that isn't necessarily dark fantasy but has a little dark threaded through, Heather's books are a good place to start. Um, oh, Melissa actually says, yes, I love your villains, though. Oh, goodness.
Well, that's good to know.
uh, so thank you so much, Heather, for hopping on in the middle of a busy Saturday. Congratulations on surviving your move.
Yay, thank you.
Excited to see what all is coming next in your book worlds. And everybody, I have put Heather's links in the description boxes again on YouTube and Twitter, or YouTube and Facebook, sorry, Twitter, in case you would like to go follow Heather, sign up for Heather's newsletter, definitely read some of Heather's works. And you can read the first 2 chapters of Songs and Saltwater for free by signing up for her email newsletter, which is in that description as well. But thank you so much. It was such a pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, everybody. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.